welcome to my channel, Paternal Path. We are ready to begin our trip to Universal Studios. It all started bright and early, or at least it felt that way. The bags were packed, the boys were up way too early, and I was already on my second cup of coffee before 7 a.m. That's when you know it's a real family road trip. We loaded up the Tesla, everyone found their spot, and we were off. I'll be honest, having full self-driving on this trip made everything way easier. I still kept my hands ready, of course, but being able to relax just a little while the car handled the long stretches? Game changer. The GPS said we'd get to the hotel around 10 that night. Long day ahead, but we had it all planned out, and our first major stop was already decided, Kettleman City. Now, I don't know what it is about that place, but it's become kind of a tradition for us. A Tesla supercharger station, good food, and just enough chaos to make it memorable every time. We let the Tesla charge, wandered around a bit, then got back on the road. FSD handled the highway like a champ while the kids dozed off here and there. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting everything in warm colors, and I just remember thinking, this is what it's all about. By the time we reached the hotel, it was just after 10 p.m. We were tired, hungry, and more than ready to hit the beds. The boys crashed fast, and honestly, so did we. Universal Studios was just a few hours of sleep away. The next morning was a mix of excitement and controlled chaos. The boys were up early. Breakfast was a blur, but everyone was fed, dressed, and out the door before 9 a.m. That's a win in my book. We walked past the iconic globe, and that's when it hit me. We were really here. Universal Studios. Experiencing it for the first time with my own kids. There's something great about that. First stop? The Wizarding World of Harry Potter. Kai had been watching the movies nonstop for weeks. He walked through Hogsmeade like he belonged there. Christian kept trying to cast spells with his chuo. And Logan? He was just trying to drink all the butterbeer in California. The rides were incredible. From the thrill of the Forbidden Journey to the water-splashing chaos of Jurassic World, the boys couldn't stop smiling. Michelle and I kept giving each other looks. That quiet. This is worth every penny look. Actually, it was a look of exhaustion, but we'll take it as it is. We kept exploring. The Minion ride was a hit. Kai laughed so hard I thought he'd fall out of his seat. Christian was surprisingly into the Transformers. And somewhere around 3 p.m., Logan hit a second wind and took off running toward the Raptor encounter. One of my favorite moments? Sitting on a bench near the fountain while the boys ran in circles, and Michelle just rested her head on my shoulder. The noise of the park faded for a second. It was just us, in the moment. As the sun started to set, the energy dipped, but the memories were piling up. We grabbed dinner in downtown Universal, pizza and voodoo donuts, and took our time walking back toward the exit. On the way out, Kai said, "Best day ever." Christian nodded with a sleepy grin. Logan was out cold. And me? I just looked at Michelle and said, "We did good." At the hotel, we took in our memories and got the kids ready for bed so we can start again the next day. In the morning, we grabbed a quick breakfast at the hotel. Nothing fancy, just enough to fuel us for a few more hours in the park. The kids were half asleep, but still excited. It was one of those mornings where the vibe was just chill. No rush. Just enjoying the slow start. Back in the park, we moved with less urgency. We weren't trying to hit everything, just the favorites. Christian wanted one last run through the Raptor encounter. Kai voted for another go in Super Mario World. Logan didn't care what we did as long as there was ice cream involved. We took our time that morning. No schedule, no rushing from ride to ride. Just letting the kids lead the way. We stopped for snacks we'd skipped the day before, laughed way too hard on a spinning ride that probably wasn't designed for grown-ups, and let the boys trade souvenir ideas back and forth about 5 times before finally deciding. It wasn't about doing it all. It was about enjoying what we did. Kai kept trying to score higher in Super Mario World. Christian dragged us back to the Raptor encounter one last time, claiming it was for science. And Logan, he just wanted to run, snack in hand, smile on his face. It was one of those mornings that made it hard to leave. Super Mario World was a whole experience. From the second we walked in, it felt like stepping straight into a video game. The sounds, the colors, the moving coins, it was unreal. Kai was all about hitting the question blocks and getting every point he could. Christian was laser-focused on beating Bowser Jr. in the final challenge. Logan didn't care about points. He just kept yelling Mario and running around like he lived there. And the food? Honestly, way better than I expected. The themed meals were fun, the portions were solid, and that mushroom popcorn? Worth every bite. We sat down as a family with trays full of themed dishes, and even Michelle and I had to admit, this might have been the best theme park food we've ever had. Midday, we took a break and headed back to the hotel for a bit. 3 days at a theme park is fun, but let's be real, it's exhausting, especially with little ones. That short rest made a huge difference. The boys recharged, Michelle and I got off our feet, and we were able to enjoy the rest of the day without burning out. If there's one tip I'd give to any parents doing a multi-day park trip, schedule at least one long break each day. Doesn't matter if it's a nap, pool time, or just laying down in the AC, it's a game changer. After our break, we headed back out for one last round. The energy was totally different, slower, more laid back. We didn't feel the need to hit everything, just a few more of the kids' favorites. It wasn't about checking boxes anymore. It was about soaking it in. Kai wanted one more shot at his favorite challenge in Super Mario World. He was determined to hit every block and beat his earlier score. Christian took the map and led us like a little tour guide, and Logan just followed the music, dancing his way through the crowds. We found a spot near the snack carts, grabbed something cold to drink, and just sat. Sometimes the best moments come when you stop trying to create them. The kids laughed, we people watched, and for a few minutes, it felt like time slowed down. We caught a character parade we hadn't planned on seeing, the kind of surprise that makes the extra effort worth it. Logan waved like they were his long-lost friends. Michelle and I smiled at how simple joy still hits hardest. Dinner that night was low-key, but felt special. Nothing fancy, just good food, tired smiles, and that feeling you get when a great day starts to wind down. I think Kai said it best. This was a good one, huh, Dad? Yeah, it really was. It turned out to be one of the best parts of the whole trip. I wasn't totally sure how the kids would react going in. I mean, it's not a roller coaster. There are no giant drops, no butterbeer, just a slow-moving tram and a whole lot of behind the scenes. But the second it started, they were hooked. We rolled out of the loading area and into this massive backlit, and suddenly everything they'd seen on TV or in movies felt a little more real. There was this moment where we passed by a row of old Western storefronts, and Kai leaned forward and asked, "Wait, that's real." That look, that mix of surprise and curiosity, stuck with me. Meanwhile, Logan was in full sensory overload mode. Every twist in the road, every sound effect, every surprise jump, he reacted like it was the coolest thing he'd ever seen. When King Kong appeared in full surround screen with the tram shaking and jungle sounds blaring, he yelled, "No way!" so loud the people in front of us laughed. And then came the earthquake scene. Lights flashing, water gushing, the subway collapsing around us. The boys were wide-eyed, gripping the seat rails like it was real. But it wasn't just the thrills. There was something about the whole experience, being behind the curtain of how movies are made, that landed harder than I expected. Kai started asking about green screens and camera rigs. Christian asked if people work there every day like a normal job. And for once, they were all quiet at the same time. Not out of boredom, but because they were actually thinking. It was like they saw a side of the world they didn't know existed. And honestly, so did I. By the time we rolled back into the station, they were buzzing with stories, talking over each other about their favorite part, asking if we could do it again before we left. It was one of those rare moments where time slowed down just enough to feel it, the kind of experience that sticks, even when the rest of the day is a blur. We didn't know what to expect from the tour, but it turned into one of the most talked about parts of the trip. And the best part? They didn't just ride through a movie set. They walked away with new questions, new excitement, and a whole new appreciation for how stories are told. As soon as the tram pulled out of the station, there was a shift. The park was loud and buzzing, but this part felt different. Slower, almost like we were being let in on a secret. The boys leaned forward in their seats, looking around like something big was about to happen. And honestly, it was. The tour guide had that perfect voice, calm, funny, full of random facts you'd never think to ask about. She pointed out sets from famous shows, the fake neighborhoods where movie families lived, and old sound stages that had seen decades of filming. We passed by rows of houses, each with a story. Christian whispered, "Are people in there?" Logan looked confused. like he couldn't figure out how something could be real and fake at the same time. That's the magic of it, I think. The Jaws section caught everyone off guard. Calm water. A little narration. Then boom, shark attack. Logan jumped. Kai shouted no way. Christian said it looked fake, but gripped the rail a little tighter anyway. We were all laughing, even the people in the rows ahead of us. Then came the rainstorm. The sky was clear above us, but the set made it feel like a downpour. Water gushed through the gutters, thunder rolled in, and somehow it just felt real. The kids were wide-eyed. That's when I saw it click in Kai's head. The realization that movies build everything. That none of it's random. We turned the corner and rolled through the War of the Worlds set, the actual plane crash scene. Logan got real quiet. Christian asked if it was used in a real crash. The way the debris was scattered, the scorched cars, the broken houses, it looked like chaos frozen in time. You could see the boys piecing together how movies use details to tell stories. It wasn't flashy, but it left an impression. Next was the subway earthquake. Lights flashing, ground shaking, water rushing in. The whole tram moved like it was falling apart. Michelle gripped the seat, laughing. Logan held my arm like the world was ending. Kai just kept repeating, "This is insane." It was over in a minute, but they talked about it for the rest of the day. And then, King Kong. We pulled into this dark tunnel, not knowing what to expect. Suddenly, everything went wild. Screens on both sides, jungle sounds, creatures jumping from tree to tree, the tram shaking with every hit. It was like being dropped into a blockbuster, and the kids were fully locked in. Logan screamed when Kong showed up. Not scared, just completely overwhelmed by how real it felt. Christian kept asking how they made the tram move like that. Kai wanted to know if they could do that for video games. That's the thing I didn't expect, how much they connected with it all. They weren't just watching, they were absorbing it. We passed old New York streets, the courthouse from Back to the Future, the Psycho House. All these pieces of movie history that felt oddly familiar, even if you didn't know exactly where you'd seen them. At one point, we turned a corner and saw a giant blue screen. The guide explained how it's used to build entire worlds. That's when Kai said, "So they really just make everything up?" And I said, "Yep, and they make it look real." His face said it all, like he'd just discovered the cheat codes to storytelling. As we made our way back toward the loading area, there was this calm across the tram. Not boredom, just reflection, like everyone had gotten more than they expected. I looked at the boys, all three of them leaning back, a little quieter, a little more thoughtful. That alone made the whole thing worth it. By the time we got off, they were buzzing. Not with the usual, "let's go on another ride" energy, but the kind of excitement that comes from seeing something bigger than yourself. They kept swapping favorite moments. Kai picked Kong. Christian picked the cars. Logan picked the whole thing. Later that night, Christian said, "It was cool to see how they fake stuff and still make it feel real." That stuck with me, because that's what the studio tour does. It pulls back the curtain, just enough to make you curious, but still leaves you in awe. As the tram kept rolling, we passed through more of the backlit, and it was wild seeing how much history is packed into that place. Streets that looked like New York, others that could be anywhere in small-town America. The kids kept pointing and guessing where they'd seen things before, half right, half imagining. That was part of the fun. Everything felt familiar, but you couldn't quite place it. Like movie déjà vu. There was a section where they showed the flash flood effect. It was this calm little street, and then boom, water rushing down out of nowhere, flooding the whole set. The boys freaked out in the best way. Logan clapped like it was fireworks. Christian leaned in to see how it all worked. And Kai? He started theorizing about how they must pump and drain that much water so fast. All I could do was laugh. Even I forgot it wasn't real for a second. Then we entered the Desperate Housewives neighborhood. Perfectly manicured, completely empty, and somehow just eerie in daylight. I made a dumb dad joke about looking for a Zillow listing, and Christian gave me the look. You know the one. But hey, it landed with Michelle. Worth it. We passed props and set pieces, a crashed plane here, a wrecked bus there, and each time, the kids got quieter. Not bored, but absorbing. Seeing these huge, over-the-top scenes up close, without music or editing, made them realize how much effort goes into just a few minutes of a film. Kai said, "It's like building a story from the ground up." I didn't even have a response for that. He nailed it. home started quiet. Logan passed out almost instantly. Christian scrolled through photos on Michelle's phone. Kai leaned against the window, still wearing his power-up band. The freeway stretched out ahead of us, and I just drove. No rush, no pressure, just letting it all settle in. That final stretch between a great trip and your front door always feels different. You're heading back to routine, but you're carrying more with you than when you left. More laughs, more memories. And in our case, about 3 new souvenir bags, half a chuo, and some tired, happy kids.